Welcome back to day 2 of the Waymaker Men's Summit podcast, where we like to grow your life and change the world. And part of what we want to do here over this weekend is to introduce you to different people in different fields that maybe you don't get a chance to talk to every day. I'm excited to get a chance to talk to our next guest, Keith Lee.
Yes, sir.
Another Keith. It's Keith Lawson, Keith Lee. It's
Pleasure to
Keith
be here,
Day.
man.
How you
Pleasure
doing,
to be
brother?
here. I'm blessed, man. Blessed and highly favored. Thankful to be here with y'all.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Listen, I just want to jump right into it. 1st
Let's
of
do
all,
it.
how do you go from MMA to food critic?
You pray. You pray and you do what you feel like you're supposed to. For me, it was food has always been a main component in what it is that I do. When it comes to cutting weight, when it comes to just being on top of my diet. So food has always been a main staple. And we got reached out to by a company or a YouTube channel called People vs. Food back in December of 2022 or November 2022. And they make food videos.
Right.
So I asked my wife, what would I post on our page that would make people not only come, but actually come and follow?
Yeah.
Because one thing to be on a platform, but it's another thing to translate that platform.
Right.
And food reviews was the answer. So I literally told her I'm going to post one food review every day until we get on that channel. And I think we went from like 1.6 to like almost 10 million followers in a matter of a month before we got on there. Yep.
That's
and
the process, bro.
I've been there every day. Yeah, every day
That's
since.
so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, did you know that, like you said, food's always been a passion, but did you have any idea how big this could possibly get for you?
No, I had no idea I'd be sitting right here. I have no idea where I'm going to be sitting tomorrow. I'm just thankful for every moment, and just being able to wake up is more than enough for me, for sure.
How has platforms like TikTok helped to elevate your mission?
That's a great question. For me, it's just having access to the people, having access to kids, having access to you, having access to anybody that's listening. That has been life-changing for me, and just being able to reach the target audience. That's what I always say is that everybody who is doing something that feel like they're supposed to do it, right. There's always an audience for you, and it's all about reaching that audience. And TikTok has helped me reach that audience.
Yeah, it's a thing to know that when you come from a space of authenticity, that you don't have to search for an audience.
Absolutely, it's gonna come to you.
Just actually be you and be unapologetically.
Absolutely,
because there's only one you.
Absolutely.
So your brand, if you stay true to it, that's not something anybody can steal from you. Here, this is me, and somebody else can do this, but it won't be the same.
Absolutely. That was the hardest concept to me when it comes to all of this, is a brand.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm blessed enough now to where I do have a very strong brand and a brand that speaks for itself. But the brand thing caught me way off guard. I'm like, literally, I'm just eating food. Like, what do you mean be a brand? Like, it was like, oh, you being authentic. I'm just being myself. I literally just turn the camera on, eat, turn the camera off, and then go do what I'm doing.
Right.
So there was no strategy amongst that.
Right.
But I feel like when you're walking on a path that you genuinely feel like God has put you on, the strategy is just waking up and doing what you feel like you're supposed to do, no matter how uncomfortable it is.
Yeah, that's one of the things with the advent of social media and how prevalent it is in pretty much everything.
Absolutely.
You will find an audience. They will find you.
Absolutely.
And if you keep doing, obviously, it's got to be consistency. You got to
Absolutely.
continuously post. You got to continuously post. But it's got to be interesting to say, hey, I'm just going to go out here and do this, and this audience is just waiting there for me.
Social media has always been a outlet for me. So I've always battled with social anxiety. I've always battled with depression and just anxiety in general. So when I very first started doing any kind of social media was in 2020. Before 2020, you couldn't get me on a camera.
Right.
So I would do professional fighting interviews because I fought for Bellator. And then when I would do those interviews, I would be so nervous and jittery and sweating, and I would stumble over words. And when the pandemic hit, my wife was pregnant. So I literally would look at myself in the mirror and be like, are you going to continue doing it this way? Or are you going to test yourself and find ways to get better at it? So I literally would just set the camera up and pretend I was talking to 1,000 people when I had like 74 followers. So that's how social media initially started for me. It just was a gateway and a way to get better and doing literally everything when it comes to public speaking, when it comes to articulating myself in real life, when it comes to being confident in who I am, being the man who I am today. All of that stemmed from me being honest with myself and looking in the mirror and finding something that can improve those areas that I felt like I lacked in.
So let's take it back a couple and talk to me about what was it like, being in the MMA, and how did you end up there? Like, how did that happen? I always wonder that about folks.
So it was just life for me, honestly. So I wrestled all the way through high school. My brother, he wrestled before me, and he was in the UFC by the time I graduated high school. So I had a blueprint to look at in a sort of a sense. So from middle school on up, I started just directly going to his wrestling practices when we were going to pick him up from school. And instead of like watching the practices, he would have me join in. So I was wrestling with high schoolers when I was like in the 6th grade. So by the time I got to high school, that was pretty much like, what you gonna do? Like, because we went to the same high school, so we're 4 years apart. So the second he left, I came in. Right. So anybody who has an older sibling, once you at that school, you his little brother. Like it wasn't no other question. Like the wrestling coach knew me, like I said, since I was in the 6th grade. So by the time I got there, it wasn't. I literally had like outfit picked out for me already. So it was like I really was. I wouldn't say pushed into it, but I had a great example of what it is that I wanted to do. So the second I graduated high school, I've never really been a model student, so I didn't really have a lot of offers or anything. I wouldn't even say a lot. I didn't have any offers leaving out of high school. I had one half scholarship to a school called Indiana Tech in Indiana. And by the time I got there, I didn't realize that I couldn't afford it until I got there, and I was there for a week. And they brought me to an office and was like, you literally have no scholarship money. Like that half scholarship that I was on was like, I think it was like, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but I think it was like $4,000 or $5,000. Again, I might be getting the numbers wrong, but it wasn't nowhere near what I actually needed. So I had to call my parents and ask for like $22,000, and it was like, you might as well get on a flight home. So I jumped back on a flight, went back to Vegas, because I'm originally from Detroit, but my family moved to Vegas in the middle of my senior year. So I jumped on a flight, went back to Vegas. And then as soon as I got off the flight to Vegas, I had no idea what I was going to do. I got into one of the biggest depressions that I've ever been in my entire life, because it's an unspoken error that you go through once you get out of high school that a lot of people don't touch on, is that what do you do kind of thing. You just thrown into the world of adult to where as a high schooler, you got your parents waking you up. You got things that are, if you're blessed enough, you got your parents waking you up. You got things that are structured for you to go from class to class. When you become an adult, none of that is there. It's literally like you got to wake up and do what it is that you got to do, and nobody gonna wake you up. Nobody gonna tell you got to be here at a certain time. Nobody gonna wake you up for work. You got to wake yourself up for work. So that was like the biggest struggle for me. And my brother, he noticed that I was going through a big depression, because I literally was like not cutting my hair, not coming out of my room, not eating for real. So I would just be in this dark room all day, every day. And my brother would come from the gym, and he would see me, and he saw me one day, and he was like, "Get up, let's go to the gym." And that literally started my life. I went to the gym one day with him, and I never turned around.
It's amazing that, and the folks in this room can attest, nearly everyone has sat in this chair over this weekend has had a conversation that has somehow touched on a mental health.
Absolutely,
piece.
absolutely.
Be it depression, maybe a lot of folks that are like athletes, professional athletes. I just got finished talking to Isaac Keys, who played football in the league.
That's it.
And one of the things that's consistent is, once they stop playing a sport, it's like you leave high school, you were wrestling, you're doing this, and then you end up in space where it's uncertain what your next move is going to be. It can very easily turn into
spiral to it. Absolutely,
and anxiety or whatever. And
it's
you
purpose.
Figure out that space of what it, because before that you had something that was driving
absolutely,
you.
It's purpose.
You had
purpose.
a point, you had a purpose, you had a routine.
Absolutely.
And now you don't have that routine. Like, and how do you get through that whole thing? And it really just speaks to how important it is just for us as a community, as a country, to really pay attention to that mental health piece.
Absolutely.
Like, how are we taking care of ourselves? How many people are dealing with, say, like counseling, which, in the black community, nobody.
Yeah, it's very sparse. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Shake it off.
Yeah, it's frowned upon. Yeah, for sure.
So talk to me about how your routine and your approach to daily is different as a food critic.
Absolutely.
Versus when you were wrestling.
For me,
MMA.
So for me, it's the only thing different is what I actually go and do. Right. When I was full blown fighting, so like I said, I've been a professional fighter since I was 18 until December or September 2022 was my last fight. So throughout those, almost 10 years. So throughout those 10 years, every day I would train twice a day. 6 days a week, and then I was doing DoorDash. In between each training session. So a typical day would be me waking up, me and my wife shared a car at the time, so it was me dropping her off at work, going straight to do DoorDash to get food, to get money in order to get food for breakfast. I would do probably like 2 or 3 before I go to the gym, go get some food, go straight to the gym, do a full training session, leave that training session, do more DoorDash in order to get lunch. By the time I got lunch, I would go back to my second training session, go pick her up from work, do DoorDash again to be able to pay for dinner, do dinner, and then go to sleep. So that was literally every day for almost 10 years, I would say. But in between that, I also had odd jobs. Like I worked at H&M. I actually met my wife working at Asics, the shoe store. As a lifeguard, so I picked up odd jobs. So now my day-to-day life is I literally wake up, I make sure my wife is okay. The same thing I would do to make sure she go to work. But now it's just because now we have kids. Right. So now it's making sure that my kids are taken care of. My wife is okay. Happy wife, happy life. Make sure the house is in order. I make sure everything is taken care of in the household. And then I immediately go shoot a video, whether that be food review, whether that be us, especially when we on food tour. When we're not on food tour, I literally just go shoot a food review, edit it, and I literally shoot everything on my own. So I literally just set my phone on the steering wheel. I think that was the biggest thing I was trying to stress to kids when we were at the speaking event, is that I don't do anything that's deemed special or out of the ordinary, except for being myself. Right. I literally just grab a camera, I put it on my steering wheel, and I just record myself eating food. And then I turn it off and I edit it myself and I go play with my kids. But when we on food tour, that's when the professionalism comes in at. Right. That's where the same attitude that I took with fighting comes into what we do. So I pretty much hit 6 spots a day when we on food tour. And it's literally like from the morning, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we on the road, sitting in the Sprinter van. Sometimes I have my kids, sometimes I don't. A lot of times my parents come with us, so they keep them back at the house sometimes. And we just get in the car and we drive from place to place. And we might shoot 6 videos. I might edit 2 videos a day. And we're literally working like almost 12-hour days.
So how do you decide where you go?
So for me, I never go to a place that I'm not recommended to or that I'm not directly invited to. Okay. But I also pray over it. So we are invited to, I would say, let's say when we in Chicago, I would say we had, no exaggeration, probably 1,600 requests within the first, I would say, day, maybe. Probably more than that. So over a span of, let's say, 6 days, usually is when we in the food tour area, over a span of 6 days, we might get over 4,000 or 5,000 requests. Wow. And I think it's easier said than done to go through all of those. Right. But I also have a team that literally goes and scans through everything for me. And then when it's brought to me, like I said, I pray over it. I look through the stories, because a lot of times I see the behind the scenes. So I see the person behind the restaurants or the family behind the restaurants, not necessarily just the food. Right. A lot of the times these are restaurants who are feeding their entire families with this, or making sure the kids get to school, make sure everything is on the table for their children, the same way I would do DoorDash back in the day. Right. So I read through all of the stories, which can get very emotionally draining, because it's a lot of trauma dumping, and it's a lot of things that us as human beings, especially as somebody who's an empath, that immediately get empathic about. So I vet through all of them. I pray over the ones that I feel like I'm supposed to do, and we just literally just go and show up. So the reason that I do food tour the way I do, for those that don't know, is I want the same experience that everybody else gets. It's very easy at this point of life that I'm at, which I'm thankful for, to hit any of the biggest food people in each city and say, hey, take me to your favorite spot. Right. Or hit a celebrity up and be like, hey, if I'm in Chicago, hey, G Herbo, take me to any spot that you know. It's very, again, I'm blessed to do it, but it's very easy for me to just make those connections. Right. But for me, I do it for my mom. I do it for the person listening. I do it for the kids that's sitting out there. When they go to a new city, they can't hit up G Herbo and say, hey, let's go get food. Or they can't hit up the biggest celebrity in the city and say, hey, take me to any spot. Right. They get on social media and they say, hey, what's the best food in this area? Or they get on TikTok nowadays and they search up best food in Chicago. Right. So we like to go to that same format so it can be easily accessible to the community that we serve. Because I never want to outclass the community that supports us and that makes what we do possible. And I think that gets lost in translation for a lot of people, and not for us.
That's awesome. So what's next for you?
Everything that's supposed to happen, man. Like I said, I didn't know that I would be here. I don't know where I'm going to be at tomorrow. I just know that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be thankful for every single moment. We do have some really big things on the horizon. Merch is a really big thing for us. Well, I would say a clothing company is a really big thing for us. I'm about to be 28, so I'm going to Japan for my birthday. I can't wait.
Okay.
I've been excited about this, as my wife told me.
awesome.
Yeah, so this next month is really just about, so my 3-year-old, she's about to be 4, September 16th or September 17th, and then my 1-year-old is about to be 2, September 26th. So we literally have birthdays back to back to back. So right now it's just about celebrating life and being thankful for another year.
All right. Well, listen,
Absolutely.
bro, I appreciate the
Thank you for having me,
conversation.
man. Absolutely.
Keep
That was
shining.
amazing.
Keep doing what you're
Thank you,
doing.
man.
Change the world.
Oh, man. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.